Body organization is important to know about so that you can at least kind of figure out where different things are in the whole entire body. So this is going to be also one of those required things before you can move on. A lot of the rest of the book is actually going to kind of rely on the stuff that we're going to be talking about here. And if you haven't taken anatomy and physiology or biology of human function as of yet, some of this might be new terminology. One of the easiest things to do while you're doing this is try to think about where you are on the actual physical body or on your body, and then what you can define these different types of things are. So I'm not going to actually go through a lot of the different tables in this, but please go through on your own to be able to go through all of the different prefixes, suffixes, and roots that you might end up having to deal with in this section. So when we're talking about medical terminology, generally we're actually going to be talking about anatomy and physiology. We're talking about everything from the molecular level up until the system level. So the human body is made up of atoms, which make up molecules, which then all combine together to make the four macromolecules of life, which are lipids, carbohydrates, protein, and nucleic acid. If you don't know what those are, then please review some of the stuff that you have done before or come and talk to me. That's really important that you actually know what those things are. Then we can go from molecules to combinations of molecules in different types of ways that will make organelles. Organelles are kind of like the organs of a cell, which then you get to a cell. A lot of cells make up tissues. Specific types of tissues in combination make up an organ. An organ then makes an organ system, and then you have the body. So all of these different types of things together are going to be individual, and there's a lot of different ways that you can take them apart, but we'll end up getting this whole complex series of different types of chemical equations that when you mix them together, you end up getting homeostasis. Homeostasis is equilibrium, and it's essentially keeps everything inside of your body working the way that it's supposed to. So that is homeostasis. If we're looking at these things once again, from the atom through everything else, you can see this image and it talks about what you need to actually talk about. We can actually go in the subatomic to that side of things, and then also the supraorganismal. So if we're looking at things like combinations of organisms living together in some sort of ecological community, etc. and so forth. But most of medical terminology, all of anatomy and physiology, is going to live within generally actually somewhere between the molecule and the organism side of things. Most of it is actually going to be within this general portion, so the cells to tissues to organs. Some organ system, but not necessarily. So atoms are atoms, simple types of stuff that hypothetically you should know. And once again, as I said before, I didn't mean to be flippant about that, and I very much apologize if I have offended you that you don't know what atoms are, but you really should know that going into college. So if you don't, or if you're confused about things, come and talk to me, please. Elements are made up of atoms. An element is a substance that can't be broken down by chemical means into any other type of substance. It's all dependent on the total number of protons that they have, and that determines what they actually are. When we're talking about anatomy and physiology, then there are going to be 6 main elements, because most of it is going to be revolving around those 6 main elements, and they are carbon, which is going to be one of the more common ones, oxygen, hydrogen, those are the big 3, and then we also have nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. There's also, you'll see a lot of potassium, and sodium involved in a variety of these different types of things, but generally we're going to see those about 8 total, but the 6 that are listed are going to be more commonly found than anything else. A molecule is a combination of 2 or more atoms that form a specific compound. They can be the same type of atom. So, like N2 is nitrogen, O2 is oxygen gas. Those are gases. Or you can have a combination like H2O, which is water. Water is actually going to be the most common molecule in the human body. It makes up about 55 to 65% of body weight. And it is necessary for essentially all human function. Cells are the basic building block of life. There are different types of cells, and each cell is specialized. Almost every cell has a nucleus, as well as a variety of other different types of components. The cell membrane is going to go around the edge of the cell. The cytoplasm is the goo in the middle. The nucleus is the control center of a cell. So if you're trying to think about how cells actually work, think about them in comparison to a city. There's a lot of similar types of functions, or you can look for other different types of things that will describe them to you. A lot of times, the size and the shape of the cell are going to have specific names, and they generally help the cell perform its function. The cell membrane is around the outside. It's also a phospholipid bilayer. That means that it's made up of phospholipids in two layers. You might also see it referred to as a plasma membrane or a variety of other different types of names, depending on where you are within the human body. The cytoplasm. So generally, whenever you see cyto, C-Y-T-O, that means having to do with the cell. So the cytolemma is another name for the cell membrane. Cytoplasm is the goo inside, or the plasma, the liquid inside of a cell. And that's what it is. It's mostly water. It's pretty much salty water, for lack of better terminology. There's a lot of other different types of things that it does. You, once again, should hypothetically know all these things. Nucleus is in the center of the cell. It's generally circular. Not all cells have nuclei. Red blood cells don't. They lose their nucleus. But it's also where the genes live, where DNA and RNA live, where a variety of other different types of things happen. So that's a nucleus. Look, it's a beautiful picture of a cell. Ooh, exciting. Ooh. Almost all of these different types of things that are floating around inside are going to be called organelles, and they all have their different types of features. If you're curious about any of those different types of features, it's listed in your book, or you can come and talk to me or find a different source. Stem cells are really important to know about. Stem cells are precursors of all different types of body cells, and they have a variety of different types of names of stem cells and a variety of potencies, so to speak. So depending on what it can actually become later on. Generally, they can divide and renew themselves for very long periods of time. They're specialized to an extent, but are not as specialized as individual permanently defined cells, and they can give rise to specialized types of cells. Some of them are found in embryo tissues, some of them in adult tissues, some in umbilical cord, blood. They can be transformed into specialized cells depending on what you end up doing with them. If you throw random things at them, then they will progress down that type of route. And by random things, I mean a very specific set of things, generally different types of cell signaling molecules. So I realized that this ended up getting a little bit long. I'm going to split this into a couple different things. So this is the end of part 1.